So now let's welcome Fraser McKay, who's going to, he's from, St John Ogilvie High School in Hamilton. So his credentials amongst them are, he's a Raspberry Pi certificate and a Makey ambassador. Hi Fraser, thanks for joining us here this evening.
Yeah.
Did you present at the JP Morgan event recently?
Yes, basically the same talk.
The building, it was quite something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to need like my driving license or my passport to get in, but yeah.
Difficult place to get into, but it was a great event. Okay, so just before Fraser kind of kicks off and we disappear, remember, if you want to ask any questions, please present them in the chat on YouTube, and they will come up and we can put those questions to Fraser towards the end. Okay, Fraser, it's over to you. I'll bring your slides on, and Pamela and I will come back later.
Thanks. So, yeah, hi everyone. So you can see there from my title, right? That's Mr. McKay, and he's got a robot army. So if people were at the JP Morgan event, they might have heard this story if they were in the session that I did with Maggie. So a couple of years ago, I'm walking through the street area in our school, which, if you know modern school buildings, you know, it's a sort of open area, lunch hall, sort of all combined into one. And my colleague over here says, as we're walking past like new S1s in August, that's Mr. McKay. He's got a robot army. And, you know, obviously, it's like, where does this come from? And I found it really funny, and I really liked that this idea had stuck. So when they had come for their primary 7 visits in like the May or June, we had just taken receipt of the Lego Spike robots. You know, if people did like the Raising Robots program when they were given out. And they'd come round a tour and they were being shown in classrooms, and I was sitting building one of these Lego robots, and I told them that this was my robot army. And I just liked the idea that this had stuck and that they remembered that in August. So I think the whole kind of thrust here is, how can I get kids to remember computing, and how can we make it stand out as one of the subjects when they come for their visits? You know, when they've got maybe 15 different teachers in S1, I kind of want computing to be like the most exciting subject that they're looking forward to doing. So the sort of journey that we've been on in our school with computing, I started in 2019, and I started just after the October holidays, and it was something, you know, going out to do primary visits that I was interested in doing. Obviously I don't really know the school. I wasn't going to jump right in there and say that. And computing, as it happened, wasn't in a great place. That was no fault of the person that I replaced, but I think we've all been in situations where maybe the BGE is kind of become a bit run down. Maybe, you know, one person, we don't talk about it a lot, but maybe if one person can kind of be running down the BGE while other people have seniors, it can be a bit of a difficult position. So computing was maybe seen as something quite boring. The kids weren't very engaged. You know, S2, S3, they really didn't like it. They weren't picking it. So the head teacher wanted me to kind of turn that around. I wanted to go out and visit the primaries, but then, of course, 2020 comes around and the school closes, so we can't go and visit the primaries then. And I still kept changing things in the BGE and trying to improve things. But we got up to 2022 and they able to do their first kind of normal transition visits. So when they come for their 2-day visits, computing seemed to make a good impression. So SLT are maybe talking to them at lunchtime, or what have you been at this morning? What subjects have you been enjoying? And computing is one of the ones that stood out. And, you know, it was this idea that they've been doing something exciting. They didn't just get maybe a talk about, here's what you're going to be doing over the rest of S1, which I think they maybe get, you know, 6 or 7 times over those few days. It's maybe a little bit dull. So computing made a good impression. And then that kind of gave me the opportunity to say, well, actually, I would really like to go out and visit them. And then in 2023 and 24, I've been out to visit the primary 7s. So I've had kind of at least an hour with all the primary 7 classes doing a computing lesson, and I'll show that in a minute. And it's really with this kind of aim, like, I want to make computing the most exciting subject in the school. And my head teacher keeps talking about like profile and building the profile of the subject and just trying to kind of get it out there a bit. Because I think if you're a small subject in a small department, you sometimes have to kind of shout about it a wee bit and make a bit of a buzz. So first year I did this, 2023, what it looked like. Our S1 deputy emailed all the primary head teachers and said, look, this isn't something that's been happening, but we would like to offer you a computing lesson. Is that something you'd be interested in? And all of the primaries said, yeah, they would love that. Somebody had asked at the JP Morgan event, did you find any barriers going out to the primaries? And not at all. And I know Maggie had said the same thing in her talk. The primaries overwhelmingly, wanted to have us, and they've been really welcoming and really keen to work with us on it. So I gave them a couple of options because I didn't really know how to pitch this and what they would be looking for. And I suggested, well, for maybe the smaller schools, so we know that some of the schools have about 20 in a class, could do the Lego Spike robots. There's other schools where they maybe have 45 primary 7s, and with 5 robots, that's not really feasible. And also depending on what they'd done before, because some schools might have done some Scratch and some had done Microbit and some had done something on code.org. And I was able to kind of find out a little bit from asking existing S1s and S2s what they'd done when they were at primary school. So lesson B was a makey idea, and I think it's probably not really a secret that I've become a bit typecast as the makey guy. But, we did this lesson, and actually most of the schools, it ended up being the second one that I did. So I'll show you some pictures of what it then looked like this year. So this was some photos from a couple of the primary schools in 2024. And what happened is I did the same lesson. So I did lesson B with all of the schools this year. I think it simplified things just to do the same thing with all of them. I visited them for about an hour, and some of the schools said, it's only like an extra 50 minutes to lunchtime, that they're having fun. Could you stay? And, that seemed, a positive thing to hear from them, so I wanted something that was achievable in an hour, so that they felt that they had actually done something and made something and completed it. I didn't really want them just to start something and then not know how to finish it. So I gave them a worksheet that I'd sort of adapted from the Raspberry Pi Project's website. And they've got a game, you can sort of see it on a couple of the Chromebook screens there. A game called Sprint, and it's almost like a kind of cookie clicker type thing. It's the left and right arrow keys. You mash the arrow keys to run on the spot. And I adapted that. I sort of partially completed the game because I wanted it to be maybe about 20 minutes on the Scratch part to leave some time so that we weren't just getting right at the end to the good bit, if you like, because most of them had done a bit of Scratch before. So I just wanted a little taster of that. So I got them to complete the game, and then I showed them some examples, and we did a makey controller challenge. So I gave them a worksheet, which I'm happy to share, which had 4 ideas for different things that they could do with this game with the makey. So you can see there, some of them have got like little pencil controllers, and there's a group of kids there at a table that are all sort of cutting out and drawing in pencil, and I don't think there's Orbeez in that set of photos, but I had some Orbeez with me, and you can see there's one wee guy who's running on the spot on 2 bits of tinfoil, and those are his left and right arrow keys. So as he's running, that's controlling the game. And, is it the most serious computing in the world? Probably not, but it was memorable. And if I know that not a lot of subjects are going out and visiting them, well, I really want this one to stick. So they seem to love it. I gave them a bit of time to play and to experiment with it as well. And overall, yeah, it was really positive feedback. And then while they're working in little groups, that was the time where I felt like I could go around and sort of ask them, well, what have you been doing in primary 7? And what is it? Oh, you like coding? What coding have you done? And what is it you've done with the microbit and all that sort of thing? And have those conversations then, as well as just general transition stuff about what you're looking forward to at high school and who's got big brothers and sisters and that sort of thing. And I mean, if people have done this, you'll get questions like, do you know my neighbour's big cousin? I think her name is whatever, and she's an S2, and you have to go, oh yeah, that rings a bell. So they're all very enthusiastic. Then what happened is lesson 2, so they came to us for just the sort of normal 2-day visits. S1 depute tries to make sure that we're on the list for the 2 days, so they get a kind of bespoke timetable so that they're maybe not going to the same subject twice 2 days in a row. And because he knows that we're keen on it, we tend to get in there and get quite a few S1 classes, if not maybe all 12 of them. So this was the chance where, right, we did a wee bit more serious computing, if you like, with something useful. I only had about 35 minutes when they were actually in the room, because we go down and get them from the street area. When we bring them up, you know, they might be going for an early lunch or that kind of thing. So it was, I wanted something that they could do quickly. So I'm trying to think. I'll pick up the questions at the end, probably. But yeah, great questions. I've got answers for that. So I wanted something that they could do quickly, so that they could go away saying that they'd learned something, and you know, we had kind of clear success criteria, like we're going to learn about binary numbers, because this is something that if you've got big brothers and sisters in S4 sitting the exam, they've just been doing that. You know, it's probably been the first question on their exam. So actually, let's look at how we do that. And this was something I adapted from a probation year when, you know, I'd been asked to make a numeracy day activity. So 4-bit binary numbers, I did some 8-bit ones on the board. You know, it really wasn't something difficult. Like, they could all do it, just because they were primary 7. Yeah, they could convert a number back and forward to binary. And we had a wee league table, so it was a sort of speed game, a kind of fastest finger first sort of thing. You can see there's 8, 4, 2, and 1 with there's tinfoil, there's somebody that's got conductive ink pen, there's somebody that's got wee containers of Orbeez. So these were all set up as stations around the room, and I told them they could go around in wee groups. There's a chance for them to kind of mix as well in their different sort of friendship groups in their new S1 class, and have a wee bit of fun with it. And we had a league table that I put up, where they recorded their scores, and then we put that on our like achievement wall outside in the corridor that we have between our classrooms, the kind of winning time for each class. So why we've been doing this, what is the actual effect that we've seen? We've only been doing it a couple of years. I would say, first of all, the kind of general non-subject specific transition. It's the fact that I know some names. I mean, I maybe don't remember all 240 of them, but I'm probably quite good at names, and I know that I'm going to have most of the S1 classes next year, and I've had most of the S1s this year, and I've kind of become like that guy in our faculty that I'm happy to have loads of S1s. You can sort of remember, you can place them. If you think, oh yeah, you were in a red jumper, you were at that school. And I don't know, maybe it's just for me the way my mind works, but I find that much easier than to think who's who, and to have a wee bit of context about, oh, I know that in that school you'd done loads of microbit before, or you'd done loads of Scratch, or whatever it was. I think, you know, being the friendly face, it's good for them to have somebody that they can say hi to, but it doesn't hurt our subject at all if we're the ones, maybe out of all the subjects, that they remember us, and you know, they can buy the classroom and they wave and go, "Hi, Mr. McKay, do you remember me? You came to visit my primary school." That seems to have been helpful. We've adapted S1 courses, so we were already on a journey of changing some things in the BGE, but we know that HMIE are coming to our school at some point soon. One of the concerns, not specifically in our subject, it's just the idea of you don't want to be repeating in S1 things that they've already done in primary 7. It's going to have the kids maybe switching off a bit. It's not very productive. So if we can demonstrate that we've got good transition links, we can say, well, actually, we know what they did in primary 7, so therefore what we're doing now is building on it. And some of the things that maybe they were doing before were too easy for them because they'd done some in primary and they didn't want to repeat the same thing. So we can take it a little bit further and have a little bit more challenge. That's let us bring some things down from S2 into S1 and then from S3 into S2. So although those kids haven't gone all the way through yet, with like going from BGE into senior phase, it's still kind of having an effect on maybe freeing up some space in S3. And it's certainly as part of a kind of bigger project, if you like, of trying to kind of reform the BGE and have a bit more rigour in it, as well as it being fun. and some growth in what the primaries are doing as well. So I don't mean to take credit for that. I have a lot of respect for the primary teachers, but just being out 2 years and then they're saying this time, oh, actually, after you were here, we were thinking we could do a bit of XYZ, or actually, boys and girls, tell Mr. McKay what you've been doing with the microbit in the last few weeks, because they hadn't used it before, but then they thought actually maybe this was accessible and they could do a little bit of it. And I think maybe just helping get that relationship and that confidence, and that where they had to answer questions as well. The primary teachers then have my email address. They can ask these things. And then parental engagement as well. Like, I always find it a little bit funny. I do the department Twitter, and we do get some extra people following the Twitter, some parents, when I've visited the primary schools, and I assume what's happening is, as well as following the main Ogilvie Twitter, if their kid has gone home and said, oh, that we had a visitor from the high school and it was a computing teacher, and some of them are then following the computing account. And, I don't think that they're necessarily going to unfollow us at the end of S1. So I think that helps with the sort of engagement that, for the next 6 years, they'll be seeing things that the computing department is doing and trying to kind of get the name out there and get a bit of profile. So, sort of lastly, from me, in terms of like what you need to do it, we've got a very supportive S1 deputy. He's with a primary teacher. He gets it, and he's been really keen to have subject visits. Something that I know some people have said is that, maybe the tradition in the school is that traditional subjects, maybe, maths, English, modern languages, go out and visit the primaries. And I know Maggie had said in her talk at the JP Morgan thing that her head teacher at the time was a bit concerned about that. And I think you do get that sort of thing sometimes, maybe a smaller subject or maybe a less conventional subject. Are they the ones that you want to send out? We've been really lucky that he's got no problem sending a smaller subject. If we're the ones who want to do it and we're in a place to do it, then let's do it. Let's just go ahead and organise it. We were able to make the case that out of all the practical subjects, we're the ones who can actually take stuff with us. Because, science are great when they come up for their P7 days, and they'll do really fun stuff with Bunsen burners and Van de Graaff generators and all that. But you can't take like a science lab or a whole cooking room or a woodwork room or something down to the primary school. But actually, I can take 5 robots because they've got Chromebooks. So there's that sort of thing where actually we can maybe do some things that some other practical subjects can't, while at the same time giving them a practical experience. That's the sort of thing that it seems to me that the primary sevens are often quite keen, to learn about the practical subjects that they're going to be doing. Those are maybe the exciting things because they're going to be a little bit different from primary. So the way it worked for us was this year, and this worked better, I think. Our deputy emailed all the primaries before Easter, and some of the visits were just before Easter and some of them were after, rather than leaving everything until study leave. Obviously, I had some time. I had an At 5 class and a higher class, so I had a little bit of study leave time, not as much as I did last year. So these visits could take place. He said, what about when my classes had assessments? So like my hires were doing a second prelim one of the days, so he could sit with them because I didn't need a subject specialist in the room, and that freed me up to go and visit them. And it was all about kind of putting a solution in place so that we weren't asking for like 6 hours of cover in a winner. There were times when my PT could sit in when my hires were doing the assignment because, that was fine. They knew what they were doing. And that freed me up to go and visit the primaries, and then I wasn't asking for loads and loads of cover. So I think if you can go with solutions, that helps solve that barrier. And I think the main barrier that there would probably be would be cover and the practicalities. Certainly no barriers from my point of view with the primaries. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions if somebody wants to fire them up, because I know there's this cool thing they can do when they put them on the screen.
Hi,
Hey,
thank
Fraser,
you for that, Fraser. It was fantastic to hear such a story of engaging some of our youngest students for science. So I think our first question is from Jack Walker regarding price range.
So yeah, they're about 50 quid. So they're not cheap. So I had some, and I'd bought a couple of my own when I was a student teacher and when I was a probationer, and then the Makey ambassador thing, they sent me some freebies, and then we got some of the extra money that we got for physical computing and for PGE. Was that about a year ago or something, when schools got that money. So yeah, we've got 15 in the schools, and then I've got some as well that I could pad it out to 20. Themes that I focus on with the Makey, to be honest, I tend to use it as an extension task and as a bit of a hook with games. So a bit of kind of like controller design and stuff if you were talking about games design as well. But yeah, I tend to use it as a hook. I'm kind of open enough about that it's a little bit of a gimmick, but seems to work.
Fraser.
Yeah, so how many Makeys? So yeah, that was interesting because for the first time this year, the primary schools have had a lot more devices themselves. So sometimes they had one Chromebook for every kid, and I was actually I've only got one Makey per 2 pupils. Yeah, I had 20 Makeys with me. But I've done things like this where you can have a small set, and the lesson that I did in the classroom when they came to us, that would only have been about 4 stations or something. So you could do it with 2 or 3 or 4 of them. You could do something because obviously I've built up the size of the stock over the years.
Okay, so finally, one last question on engagement with primary schools for you, Fraser.
Yeah, so in terms of them repeating it, I'm guessing, Laura, you mean like in their school. So one of the schools does have a few Makeys, and they talked about that kind of thing. It's something as well that a few of the schools have said, "Oh, we would love those. How much are they?" And obviously, the price of getting a set of them was a barrier. What I have kind of said is, well, actually, there's things that you could do with like the microbit. Where you could talk about conductive materials and use that, and try to find ways around it, if you like. We even talked at one point about maybe during the year some of my 5th and 6th years could go out and visit the primary schools and take the Makeys with them and do a lesson that way. Everybody was really enthusiastic, but I think it's just the practicalities of it. A few of them have said they would like to get some.
Perfect. Thank you, Fraser. That's been absolutely fantastic this evening. It's always good just to hear about the robot army, and we'll look forward to the Terminator type posters coming to follow it from later groups. Have a relaxing and well-deserved summer holiday.
Thanks. You too.
Yeah. Good to see you, Fraser. Okay. See you later.